sounds like he was a bit of a workaholic, maybe.
He was.
So I guess the question is, if her love language would have been quality time, then this is the thing we have to ask. Because remember, this is about, our viewers and not really about the person they're in a relationship with. Why would you seek out a person that you know is in direct opposition of what you want and need? So if you love quality time, why would you gravitate to a workaholic? So, what are some things maybe going on within that person, just from your, professional experience as a therapist? Why would a person do that and then be upset about it?
Right. So
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler. This is my co host, Karen, and we're back with Narcissist. I'm asking for a friend. And we just want to make sure we just keep you up to date with what's going on. And just remember, we're always going from a biblical perspective. So we want to make sure that we're not bashing anyone. We just want to make sure that we're helping you on your journey as you're dealing with any type of relationships where you're dealing with a narcissist. Could be a spouse, someone you're dating, family member, even a coworker or a boss. So we just want to always make sure we're spinning that positivity towards it while helping you navigate those tough relationships. And Karen, I want to say you really came up with a good book and a good topic for us today. So I want to jump right in and let's get into it. What do you have for us today?
right. Well, today's going to be mostly for the listener to
Ooh.
understand themselves more. I know we've been talking a lot all along about the narcissist and traits and things to expect from them and things to know you can't expect from them.
Yes,
But,
yes.
but today's going to be more about the development of a person
Mm-hmm.
that would become what we might consider narcissist bait.
Yes. Okay.
If they have a narcissist in their life that they are doing a relation, having a relationship with, whether it's a family member or a spouse or maybe a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whatever this
Mm-hmm.
might be, then this might be helpful for them to understand themselves and why they may put up with certain
Mm.
actions that they receive from this person. So I just wrote a few things down. So a person that's considered narcissist bait is basically, unbeknownst to them and even unbeknownst to their parents or their caretaker that raises them, they're being groomed to become
Mm.
this person that is very selfless and very giving and forgiving. This is something that narcissists are attracted to, so that's why
Mm.
they're looking for that. So
Right.
from some kind of family dysfunction, it can be dysfunction. Sometimes it's just that the family that they come from is also just very giving people, and this person's just used to doing that. So it's not always a
Right.
negative upbringing or a functional upbringing, but I just want our listeners to kind of examine maybe what their family of origin relationships were like, and then
Right.
if there's any common threads that they see that they're going into with some of the characters that we talk about from the book that we'll share. And I
Right. Yes.
giving them the name of the book, because some of them may have already read it, actually.
Right.
So it's called Women Who Love Too Much by Robin Norwood.
Good. Good.
Little subtitle says, When You Keep Wishing and Hoping He'll Change. So
Wow.
you keep hoping and wishing she'll change, and it
Right.
doesn't
It,
necessarily.
it could be right. It could be either or. It's not just, for a man wishing he would change, but for a woman as well.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and I definitely don't want to leave those men out that are struggling with being with a narcissist for sure. We don't want anybody to feel like they're alone.
Exactly.
And so the dysfunction is not necessarily one where the parents or one parent is a narcissist. So it doesn't necessarily
Mhm.
the person grew up with a narcissist and now they just know how to placate to the narcissist. It doesn't necessarily,
Right.
but if different variables take place in
Mhm.
their family of origin, it could cause the child to grow up always wanting to please others, because then that validation
Mm.
received in their family of origin is very, very important to them. And how
Right.
they receive that validation, it's usually by them bending over backwards to please that other person. And so
Wow.
narcissists love that. Somebody that's going to
Yep.
bend over backwards for them and give them what they want, that is like a big deal. So
Yeah.
now once they get that validation, they feel worthy, where worthiness was
Mhm.
sentiment that they felt as a child, and they hunger for validation to get so that they're always feeling that sense of I'm pleasing this person, so therefore I'm good, therefore I'm worthy of their attention. And
Right.
in the book, I like the one there. I mean, there are a lot of little excerpts of different people's stories. So it's a good book for people to read. And it's written by a person that was a therapist. So Trudy is a person that she writes about. And so Trudy grew up in a household where her father was never home. He was a workaholic.
Mm.
Mother was the angry wife of a workaholic because she wanted him home. Her love language was probably,
Yeah.
quality time, and she wasn't getting it.
Mm. Oh my.
Two daughters, Trudy being one of them. And so when dad would come home, he was, tired, he'd come for dinner. And then, it'd be just like a very loveless atmosphere.
Right.
Really pay much attention to the girls either. So it wasn't just the mom, it was the whole family. So different little things that are spoken about in this scenario also kind of give you the idea that he may be a narcissist.
Yeah. So
So
so is it going to go into, because it sounds like he was a bit of a workaholic maybe.
he was
Um so I guess the question is, if her love language would have been quality time, then this is the thing we have to ask, because remember, this is about, our viewers and not really about the person they're in a relationship with. Why would you seek out a person that is in direct opposition of what you want and need? So if you love quality time, why would you gravitate to a workaholic? So what are some things maybe going on within that person, just from your, professional experience as a therapist? Why would a person do that and then be upset about it?
so Trudy,
Mhm.
I believe the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I believe
Right.
mother had a very similar aloof parent
Mm.
as well. So what Trudy's mom didn't realize though is that she became so aloof to her daughters because she was so busy trying to track her husband and have her husband's attention that
Mm.
she didn't create a very close relationship with her daughters. So
Right.
they were both starving for attention and validation and feelings that I'm worthy of love and that kind of thing from both parents.
Right.
What Trudy's mom did was okay, so if she had an aloof parent, she sought out a very similar relationship with, we call this repetition compulsion. We've talked about
Yeah.
that. Yes.
Yes.
So she sought out this dad who probably when they were dating was the one that was being chased by Trudy's mom, not
Mm.
and if he was a narcissist, then he loved that. That was great. And
Oh, wow. That's a red flag there. If you're chasing, as the woman, if you're chasing, it's kind of out of order. Okay.
yeah. And so then Trudy's mom, is attracted to that because Trudy's mom had an aloof parent, and now Trudy's mom is has got an aloof husband. But if that aloof husband gives her attention and she
Right.
pleases him and she gets some kind of validation from him,
Right.
then that makes her, all those lies that she's believed about herself from the past that she's not worthy of love. Now
Right.
she experiences even just a little bit of it from
Mm.
starving for it. So if she gets a little bit of it, that's a big difference for her. So she's
Wow.
attracted to that, and he accepted her way of wanting this relationship. And so now Trudy's mom struggling in marriage because she's lonely, and she thought for sure if she marries this guy, he's going to really love her. But
Right.
oftentimes couples will drift apart even more. And so if he was like that before marriage, then it's likely he's going to be like that again.
So what is going on with the mindset to think, and this is with multiple things, that marriage is going to solve this problem? Like, I'm going to marry this person, it's going to be different. what is going on in that person's mind, because maybe it may help them to not continue to go down this cycle, you know?
Right. Well, expectations, I think people think that marriage will make me happy, but
Hmm.
marriage does not make a person happy.
No, it does not.
And so you can be happy in a marriage, yes,
Hmm.
but it's not the marriage that's going to make you happy. You are going
Right.
to be a happy person in order to be happy married.
Right. So you have to separate the two. You, in and of yourself, have to be a happy person. You need to bring that.
Yeah.
That needs to be you already.
Mhm.
Become that. Right.
Right. And I
Mm.
think also, growing up as little girls, most of us in society have seen the little fairy tales and we just think, oh, once we find our prince, and then happily ever after, right? Well, any of us
Right.
that have been married know that it's not always peaches and cream. And it's not
Right.
always easy. And sometimes it causes pain, sometimes it causes,
Hmm.
and so marriage can be hard. Uh,
Yes.
Marriage to a narcissist and a selfish person can be even harder. So
Hmm.
marriage is meant to be something that makes us both change for the better as
Right.
Christians. Um,
Yes. Yes.
we refine each other, iron sharpening iron, right? So
Right.
I have something that bothers my husband, and he says something to me. I might not like hearing it, but after I hear it now, I've got that responsibility to start thinking, well, what about what he's saying is true? And what
Right.
I need to do to have the Lord help change me so I'm not like that anymore. I want to be a better person. And so that's our goal as Christians, is to allow all the relationships in our lives be something that makes us even better. And if you're in a relationship that doesn't make you better, it doesn't make you happy, it could be just you,
Right. Right.
unhappy person. But if you're unhappy solely because you feel like you're being abused, then that's a different thing. So you've got to really examine this and decide, am I a happy person in general? And this person is just abusing me, and that's what's making
Right.
me happy? Or am I, somebody that just needs to be less negative, and I have to maybe get therapy to make sure that I learn how to see
Right.
things from a different perspective. And so there's, reasons for going for therapy if that's what you are. But in this case, with Trudy, so Trudy is a lot like her mom. So
Right.
was Trudy talks about how she loved, when she would get her report cards, because she would work very hard to get good grades, because she knew that even though her dad didn't give her much attention, when she got her report card, he was interested,
Right. Right.
wanted to see accomplishments. And so
Mm.
the reason why I kind of feel like that's probably a narcissist then, because the narcissist is very concerned about image. And so
Right.
anything that gives you, an idea that this person is great, or his family is great, or his
Hmm.
car is great, or his house is great, anything that makes that image look cool and great, then he's happy with that. So the teachers at the school must think my daughter is great and I'm a great parent because she's got good
Right.
grades, right? So when they would sit down and he would go over her report card with her, that was like the closest that she felt to him, because then he would give her validation, which is what she needed.
Yeah.
And but that was the only time. And attention. She just wanted his attention and to be
Yeah.
loved by her dad. And so
Yeah.
that was that situation. And then
It was like the bragging rights. It was like they get to brag about something that kind of brings the attention back to them, right? So
exactly
that they're the center of attention.
right. And it
Mhm.
says something for him, it says something about him. I'm a great parent because my daughter,
Right.
whatever. And
Mm.
so that was a thing that she would look forward to a couple of times a year when she get a report card, because she'd
Wow.
sit down with her dad and talk about it. So um other than that, it was very distant. Her mom and dad were always yelling at each other. And there would be, maybe, like she said, maybe there'd be like a couple of days where they'd do okay. He'd come home a little earlier.
Right.
Alcoholism was the thing that was always the problem, but then he'd get back to another day where he'd have to come in really late, and then it would be a screaming match. And uh,
Mm.
that coldness would last for days. And so there's just that kind of tension in the house all the time that made the two girls really feel like they had to walk on pins and needles, walk on eggshells. And so they were, they were, both girls were hungry for validation because mom was so busy worrying about what dad was doing.
Wow.
Girls didn't get attention from mom either. So now
Oof.
his mom only had one parent that was neglectful or aloof. But now these two girls felt like both parents are aloof, really. They're more worried about what they're worried about and not thinking about us.
Now, I want our viewers to chime in because if they've been in that situation where they felt like they were striving for attention or they just needed that validation, let us know in the chat. Share your experience, or even if you know someone that's dealing with it, we want to hear about it. We want to know. So Karen, what is the next step for a person like this? Like, what happens to Trudy? What is the end result of this as we're going through it?
Well, she eventually does go for counseling, and her
Okay.
counselor was the writer of the book. Again, Robin Norwood is her name. And
Nice.
so she goes to her for counseling, and she's able to realize that now in her dating processes, she dates a football player that's like the big guy on campus, and so
Right.
as he chooses her, she doesn't think about it as her choosing him. She thinks about it as him choosing her,
Wow.
and then becoming physically involved with him and really feeling like, well, if I can please this guy, then that's validation for me. So then she started to confuse love and sex. And so started to act out that way. He wound up going away to college on a scholarship. So then they were no longer together. So a while after, she decided to get back into dating. And it was one of those things where it wasn't, I can be picky and look for the
Mhm.
right for me. It's who's going to accept me, who's going to validate me. And it was almost like she was open for whoever. And
Yeah.
that,
There's no standards. There's no like, okay, this is the criteria. This is what I'm looking for.
right. And
It's whoever will take me.
right. And she didn't realize that she was becoming promiscuous, not because she was this terrible person, but because she was needing to feel loved and she was needing to feel accepted by someone and special. So that she even found herself in an extramarital affair. So
Mm.
he's a police officer. He meets her at I forget, a coffee shop or something, and little by little they decide that they're going to talk. They enjoyed each other's conversation, which is what he said to her. So then
Right.
that was flattery for her. So then she went back because he said when he goes there regularly, and so then she would go also. And so she found herself becoming this mistress and
Mm.
to, pleasing this person and getting that validation. Because obviously, I must be really special if I could be important enough to him that he would do this
Right.
when he has a wife and two kids and a pregnant wife at that. So,
Wow.
so
So she confused the act of having sex with this is something that's pleasing. This is a relationship. This person loves me.
right,
It really was not that at all. It was just for him a means of gratification and maybe thrill or excitement on his end, but it really had nothing to do with his love, care, or affection for her.
right,
But she thought that that's what it was.
exactly, exactly.
Mm.
It's confusing love and sex.
So, as far as how does a listener like our viewers and chime in if you know someone or you've had this situation, but how does a person break that cycle of they may not look at themselves as promiscuous, but that's really what it is.
Right, right.
To stop just having sex with multiple partners, thinking that that is love or that is connection, and this is what I'm supposed to do in a relationship. What do you suggest?
Mhm. Well, she had to come to with her therapy, she was able to come to terms with the fact that there were things she had to change. So let me just read a couple of little excerpts.
Yeah, sure.
So this is the therapist talking now, the writer of the book. So
Okay.
Judy and I began our work together, the work of healing her need to give more love than she received, to give and give from an already empty place inside her. There were a few more men in her life over the next 2 years who enabled her to examine how she used sex in her relationships. One was a professor at the university where she was now enrolled. He was a workaholic of her father's caliber, and at first, Trudy threw herself into an intense effort to coax him away from his work and into her loving arms. This time, though, she felt keenly the frustration of her struggle to change him and gave it up after 5 months. So his work was more important to her, and so she wasn't getting that validation. So she knew that for her was not good. But she still had to learn. There was more things she had to come to terms with about what she was accepting in life. Um, so then she comes to this point where she says firmly, I've got to stop doing this. I'm going to quit looking. I seem to always be attracted to the men who have nothing to offer me and don't even want what I have to offer them.
Mm,
She had to come to the end of herself and say, what am I doing? This is empty. This way that I'm living is so empty.
right.
Says here that, well, the author says the strong drive to use her sexuality to establish a relationship with a reluctant or impossible partner diminished sharply. And by the time she left therapy after 2 years, she was casually dating several young men and sleeping with none of them. So she was able to realize over time that she's the one that's got to give herself the validation. And as Christians, we do
Yeah.
that with the help of the Lord, right?
Yeah.
Lord has so many things that he says about us, right? That he
Right.
loves us. We're the apple of his eye. He's never going to leave us or forsake us. He's
Right.
we can count on. So people will fail us in life. Even good people will fail.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
So to have all of your validation coming from any human being, nobody should have the right to have that in your life, that power to have that in your life. So now loving yourself enough to make choices that are about you is what's really important. So
Yeah.
she says here, it's so different to be on a date with someone and to actually be paying attention to whether I like him,
Oh my goodness.
whether
Wow.
I'm having a good time, whether I think he's a nice person. I never thought about these things before. I was always trying so hard to make whoever I was with like me, to make sure he had a good time with me and thought I was nice. After a date, I never thought about whether I wanted to see a person again. I was too busy wondering if he liked me enough to call me for another date. I had it all backwards.
Oh, that is so good. And it's so good to see the transformation and where she came from to being, this promiscuous person. And now seeing that, okay, I have the option to choose. Like you're on a date with someone. It's like, okay, I'm just kind of trying to figure out one, if there's even a friendship here, if this is someone that's even worthy of dating. And I always like to look at it as, is this even a person that I would want as a friend or a person in my life? Before you even get to the dating, right? And then this is like giving you opportunities to choose. So I want this person. Is this the type of person I want to date? And then you go forward from there. But yeah, it's not about, oh, am I impressing this person? Are they impressed with me or do they like me? It's like, okay, maybe I don't like them. Maybe they're not the person that I want to be associated with or be involved with. So,
Right.
I love that perspective shift that she had, that she finally looked at it as, I am the one that's going to choose,
Yeah.
not them choosing me.
Right, right. It's kind of like when you go on an interview, right? You
Yes.
go in there and you say, "Oh, I hope they like me. They hope they like me, and they hope they offer me the
Right.
job." But you also are a human being that has a choice to make here. And what if you find out that's sitting there that they're not all that they seem to be?
Right. The culture may be horrible. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Right. So we have choices in life, and you are the one that has control over that. And of course, you should always be asking the Lord for direction in your life. But whether it's in relationships, a job, or anything big decisions like that, you want
Yeah.
you want his direction. And so I think this will be a good book for our listeners to get a hold of. It's old, but it's old wisdom, I think. So
Yeah.
and it's not written with a Christian perspective. So, and I haven't read from cover to cover. So because of that, I can't tell you if there's anything in there that could be offensive. I don't think there is though. And
Right.
to me by some people.
Yeah, but if you're keeping God first and you're seeking Him about all these things, then these people that are not could be narcissists, could be just toxic in general. Um, you will find that you will have that discernment not to even continue to be in a relationship with that person, because there's just going to be something about them that's not going to sit right with you. And it's once again your choice whether you go against what you're feeling and what you know is the right or wrong thing, and you make that right choice. And then that way you're not dealing with recovering from all these wounds and these setbacks in life that just make you question yourself and your own validity of who you are and your self-esteem. We don't want to go there. So
Right.
Karen, this has been amazing. I'm so glad we got to touch on this topic. And we want to just always invite our listeners to make sure that you share this with someone. Don't just keep it to yourself, share it with someone, because there is someone in your circle or someone that you care about, that's close to you that needs to hear this. And maybe they may not want to hear it from you directly, or they won't receive it. But if you share this with them, on a podcast, they may be opening the listening. And if nothing else, you planted the seed and did something to help someone else. So, Karen, any last words or anything before we close out?
One thing that did come to mind was that, in just thinking about somebody like Trudy,
Yeah,
we might be quick to judge somebody like her because we think she's
right,
us, and I've heard names that people call people like that.
right.
Always be looking, as Christians especially, always be looking at people that are, have a dysfunctional lifestyle as somebody
Mhm.
um happened to them.
Yes, yes.
That's
Hmm.
what brought Trudy to this point in her life where she was living the way she was. She was hurting, and she was actually
Yes.
needing love, looking for it in the wrong places, yes, but
Right. She really needed the love of Jesus, but she went in a whole different direction.
she did.
But yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
But I do know, I mean, I'm a Christian counselor, and so I do know that even Christians do get themselves involved physically. And because of that, I want our listeners to know, of course, God forgives everything, if we're repentant of it, of course. But the thing that I think he would want you to know is that you are valued, you are, worthy of his love, and he wants a relationship with you. And so, instead of focusing so much on those other relationships, focus first on him, and then he'll bring those right people into your life too.
Yes. And also that you are worth waiting for. Just always
Exactly.
remember that.
Yes, excellent.
Definitely. Okay, well, great. Well, I'm so glad we got to meet today. I'm so glad you were listening and that you're here. Don't forget to remember to like, if you're on the YouTube, just press the like button. And also just keep in mind that we are here for you. If you ever want to reach out to us, feel free. Send us a message, put it in the chat. We want to help you, want to hear from you, and any topic ideas, we would love to discuss them and maybe even have you on the show. Who knows? So, well, once again, my name is Tyler King. This is Karen Maldonado here with Narcissist. I'm asking for a friend, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you.